So, as I was saying, you would have covered these three topic areas so far in your grade 9. So what you will be doing from fourth form to fifth form is covering the remaining five topic areas. So each term we will be basically covering one topic area. So this term we will be starting with spreadsheet. So for the entire term we will cover spreadsheet. Next term we will cover database management. The other term, which is going to be July-August term, the last term in fourth form, we are going to cover word processing. Depending on if there is time or not, we will consider web page design, but more than likely around that time is when you start your SBA. So that's why we won't usually have time to push in web page design. So that gets pushed over to fifth form. Your first term in fifth form, we start with web page design, and then the following terms we close off with problem solving and program design, program implementation. So that is the outline of basically your fourth form, fifth form life in IT. So around database term, word processing term, you will get your SBA. So sometime next year, you should be getting your SBA to start that. Now, what I want you to take note of is that your SBA is like a practical assessment of the individual topics. So notice we're basically covering five topics. This is basically one here. Just call it programming. This entire section here, call it programming. So 1 spreadsheet, 2 database, 4 word processing, 5 web page design, and what? 1 spreadsheet, 2 database, 3 word processing, 4 web page design, and 5 programming. Those are your 5 topic areas. So the SBA now has 5 parts. It's one entire SBA, but it has 5 parts. And it is actually covering each one of the 5 topic areas. So there's a part for the spreadsheet, a part for the database, a part for the word processing, web page, and then a part for the programming. So the goal is that when you cover a certain topic, right, say for example spreadsheet, then you go about completing that part of the SBA. Because as I mentioned, the SBA is like a practical assessment of what you would have learned. Everything you would have learned in the topic, when we would have went through the content, you have to apply it into your SBA. So it's another reason why you have to focus in class, because if you don't focus in class, not only will you have a hard time with your SBA, but you will also have a hard time on your CSEC exam. Because I want you to note, this is very important, your IT CSEC exam is like a practical exam. They ask you to create a spreadsheet, create a word processing, create documents. What are the steps to do certain things? What are the steps to create a database? But the downside is that you do not get a computer. So why I call it practical is because you have to do it practically in your mind. So if you do not build that experience now, that's actually another purpose of the SBA. If you do not build your experience with the SBA, if you do not follow through in class, it will have a negative impact on your CSEC exam. because the exam asks you how to do certain tasks, how to find a certain option in these different programs that you're going to use. And only by doing these things will you be able to remember. Are we following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. So I'm hoping you guys see the importance of firstly attending class. So you can say it's a step-by-step process. First, you need to attend class, all your classes, and fully understand what is happening in classes. At the end of each class, not at the end of each class, but basically at the end of each topic area, say for instance, we're working on spreadsheet. At the end of spreadsheet, we're going to have some practical exercises for you to know how to create a spreadsheet. By the way, for those of you who might not know, these are all programs. They're basically software that we're learning. That is basically fourth form, fifth form IT. It's learning how to use different software. So, spreadsheet, database, word processing, they're the general names for or the general categories of different types of software. We would have learned about that in third form, the general categories of software. And we are accustomed to the most common applications in those categories, which is Microsoft Word, Spreadsheet, PowerPoint, and all of those things. Those are the most popular software in those categories. And that's actually what we will be using. That doesn't mean you cannot use other software, but CXE, they kind of have a tendency to require those file types from those software. So it's kind of like a necessity to have those software. Good. So please remember I shared a lot of information, I shared a lot of details. If you want me to go over back anything, if you want me to explain back anything, you need to let me know and try to take note of what I'm trying to explain to you. So far in summary, I said that we have 5 topics. We're going to be considering 5 software basically up to CSEC. And each term is a topic, each term is a software that we're going to look at. And when we finish covering the content for that topic, we're going to go through some practical exercises for you to get some hands-on with the software, basically to apply the knowledge. So we're going to look at the knowledge, look at the contents that you need to understand for the software, and then we go into the practical part of it. And then we go into the SBA. So it's a step-by-step process. Cover the content, do some exercises, and then head into the SBA. Because the SBA is like your final exercise, your final assessment for that topic. Are we following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. So that's your topics there. So as I mentioned, that is your general category of subjects, software, and we use the Microsoft applications, Microsoft Word, Excel, and so on. So for spreadsheets, we use Microsoft Excel. But if you do not have Office, you can use a program called Open Office. I would assume some of you might know about that because you might not have paid for a license for Microsoft Office. So Open Office is a software that is free and that is open. If you go on the internet, and you type in Open Office, this here, Apache Open Office, is a free open source program that gives you all of this software, like if it's Microsoft Office. But I want you to take note of something. We would have learned this in third form. With each file, it has a file type. So for example, a Word document is going to end with a .docx. A PDF is going to end with a .pdf. And when you're submitting files to CXC for your SBA, they have a certain recommendation. They have a certain preference. It's not a school preference, CXC preference of the files that you have to submit. And those file types that they recommend that you have to submit are actually the ones you get from Microsoft Office. So yes, you can use Open Office to do your work, to practice and so on, but basically when it comes to the SBA, you will need Microsoft Office in order to complete the project and save it so that that file can be submitted. Are we following?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So, for Microsoft Office, for Spreadsheet, we are going to use Microsoft Excel. For database, which is next term. This is very important for you to take note of. Database next term, we are using a program called Microsoft Access. Now, once again, I spoke about the file type extension. What I was talking about, Emmanuel, you're unmuted. What I forgot to mention is that even if you don't have Office at this moment in time, you cannot install Open Office. You can use Google Sheets for spreadsheet. So if you do Google Sheets, you can use that also for to do your spreadsheet work. But once again, that has some limitation. Google Sheets will allow you to save to the extension that Microsoft Sheet will use, but it doesn't have all of the features that Microsoft Office will have that you need to complete your SBA. So it's kind of like you will always go back to the fact that you need Microsoft Office, even though you can use other software. So for Spreadsheet, if you want to practice and you don't have Office, you can use Open Office and you can use Google Sheets. But for the SBA, you will need somebody that has Microsoft Excel. Next term, we're going to look at database management. Now, Google does not have a software for that. Like how there's Google Doc, Google Sheet, there's no Google version for that. Open Office does have a version, but as I mentioned, those programs do not have all of the features that you will need to complete your SBA and to even do certain exercises. So it's still going to lead you back to needing Microsoft Office. So you don't need Microsoft Office for this term, but for next term, especially next term, when we are going to start database management, you will need Microsoft Office in order to get Microsoft Access. That is the program we will be using. So at least by next term, you should have access to a computer that has Access. Unintended. So After the term of access, database management, we're going to be looking at word processing. So that's going to be Microsoft Word. Google Docs could work for that. I don't think, um, but then, yeah, Google Docs should be able to work for that, even if you don't have Microsoft Office. I think. I think. Um, After that, we're looking at web page design. Well, web page design is basically online, so you don't need any software for that. And for programming, I will give you the program for that, so you don't have to worry about that part of IT. So it's basically just getting a computer that has Microsoft Office. The school has computers, but that's whenever we are allowed to go back face to face to school, you will have access to using those computers, do your projects, your exercises, and so on. So I'm not telling you you need to get a computer with Microsoft Office. I'm just telling you what you need so that you can complete your work. What is the requirement? I'm not telling you to go and get one. Um, are we following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any
Yes, sir.
questions so far? Any questions? Any concern?
No, sir.
All right. So, you know what are your topics for fourth and fifth form? You know what you need. Um, you know about the SBA. How are we gonna work with that? Um, I don't think there's any other instructions or clarifications that I need to give at this point in time. So what you can do if you don't have a computer and your friend has a computer, you can partner up with that person. Um, when it comes time to doing work, doing practical things, if you don't have a computer, partner with somebody that has a computer. We do a lot of Google Meet, we do a lot of Zoom. The person that has the computer can do the Zoom, they can do the Google Meet, share screen, and that way you can all work together so that you can learn how to use the different software. All right. Oh, so I don't think there's any other information to share from the syllabus. Mhm. I think that's everything from the syllabus that I need to share. So, good. So let's go to your class. So this is your classroom. Well, Timothy already shared the links there. So far you're going to see Spreadsheet, which is what we're covering this term. As we continue online, I am going to record classes. So for those who would have missed any class because of whatever reason, you will find recordings of the class if I remember to record. Now, I would have already posted your notes since September 2nd, and I'm hoping no one was wondering what is wrong with him, why is he posting so much notes, because I'm sure you would know from Third Form that I always ensure you have all of your notes up to date. So these are all your notes for the entire term, 8 chapters. So unlike last term, you were writing everything. I don't know if you were writing, I can't remember what you were doing, but this term You have all of the digital notes. So tell me if this makes sense. You have all the digital notes. Does it make sense for you to print all of those notes? If you have all the digital notes, does it make sense for you to print everything?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. You have the digital copy. Why would you waste money to go and print it? Well, unless you are rich, like Morano, then
Sir, sir.
then it's best you go ahead and buy the textbook. If you're gonna want to print everything, just buy the textbook and done the story. Now, if you have all the notes in the digital version, does it make sense for you to write everything?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, it does not make sense. So, what you will be doing is summarizing the notes. You still need to make notes because you need to prepare yourself for CSEC. Ministry requires you to create notes. So the best I can do is allow you to summarize and make your own notes. So you don't have to read the chapters outside of class and make notes. What you can do, we can have an interaction lecture situation whereby whenever we go through the notes and I say that, look, this is a main point for you to take note of, you make a note of that in your book. If while going through the notes and you realize that, look, this is an important point for me to take note of so that I can remember this topic better, you do that. So you are basically making a study guide so that when you reach to CSEC and you have to study, you can basically pull out your book, you look at the main points, and look, I remember this main point here, I remember this topic. It will help you to remember what you need for the exam. That sounds like a good idea?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright. I'm hoping a majority of you think it's a good idea. Good. So that's it for your notes. That's it for your topics for your SBA. I don't think I have any other additional details to share before we actually get into notes. Let's see. Anybody with any questions that we need to look at before we move on? Any concerns? Alright. So there's a lot of files I have to look through. Resource files, additional files that I need to look at. And when I finalize that, I'm going to add it to your classroom. Like for example, the syllabus and so on. So I'll let you know when I do that. Good, so now it's 2:41. We don't have anything else in that area to talk about. Good. So we're gonna start with content now. If no one has any questions, concerns, or anything, we're gonna start with content. So as mentioned, this term we are looking at spreadsheet. So before we get into any content, does anybody know what is a spreadsheet? What is this used for? Have you ever looked at the program? Have you ever accidentally opened it? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings?
Um, well, I once opened it, but I didn't actually stay in long, so I didn't see much, honestly.
So when you open it, did you know what to do with it?
Nothing at all. I just opened it. I was like, oh, that's nice. Okay, moving on. Closed it and went off and did something else.
Let's close it. Anyone else with that same experience?
Yes, sir. I accidentally opened it. Then I saw the columns and I was like, nah.
Give me a second. Let me close some windows. Great, I'm back. You guys still there? Or you left with me?
Nah, we still here. At least I still here.
Alright. Only 2 persons still here. Alright, so yes, we're talking about spreadsheets. So 2 person accidentally opened spreadsheet and it scared them and they ran back out and they never opened it back since. When you hear the word spreadsheet, or does anybody have an idea or want to make a guess as to what it is used for? Or what?
To organize data or produce graphs.
Very good, very good.
Put information into graph or compare info from last time.
Good,
Compare.
good. Sounds good. Anyone else? Any idea, any opinions, any feelings you want to share? Who do you think uses spreadsheets?
So like bankers, people who have to do with bank statements and financial statements.
Good, good. You can say, yeah, those kind of persons. So let me actually open a spreadsheet and have a look at it. Should have done that from the beginning. So this is what a spreadsheet looks like. So this general area here, that's the spreadsheet. We've seen a bunch of rectangles, a lot of boxes. So if we compare that to Microsoft Word, when you open Microsoft Word, it's a page. It's a literal page. So that whatever you put on this page and you print it off, it will appear exactly on that location on that page. But when you look at spreadsheet, it's like one large canvas. So the question now is, where do you put your information so that when you print it appears neatly on the page? Or where should I type in information, because there's so many squares, so that's rectangle. Should I start here? Should I start there? Should I start over here? Where? But somebody said it is used for organizing information. That's very good, because if you notice, it has columns and it has rows. And what does that remind you of? What has column and rows?
Graph.
Sorry, table.
Graph.
Graph, a table, but mostly a table. So a table has columns and rows, and you would mostly use a table in order to organize your data. So imagine your spreadsheet like a table. It's one large table, and you can basically use the entire spreadsheet to organize your data into tables. So when you type in your information, for example, if we want to document names of students, first name, last name, and we drag this out to get some space. So we have two headings there already there. So we can say that's two columns in our table. And then just like if it was a table, we put our information underneath it. So Amina, Chadapasad, and then we continue below. And then to make it look more like a table, we can further format the information. That's what persons would do. So they might add some borders. So now you can see it actually looking like a table there. And then maybe we can bold the headings so that they stand out more. Put them in the center, maybe even make them bigger so that they stand out a little more, so that we have a table. It's actually looking like a table, and we are organizing our data. So that's basically, like in a nutshell, what we're going to be using Spreadsheet for. To organize our data, that's what persons would use it for. And to create, I heard persons spoke about graphs and so on. That is correct. You would use the spreadsheet. As you put the data into the spreadsheet, you would, from that data now, you can create graphs, you can create charts. It's also used to present your data. So if you want to create a quick chart, you drop the data into spreadsheet and you create a quick chart from that data. So very good. Now let's see. Let's read the content. We're going to look at the first chapter. Let's read the content in the chapter, and we're going to reference the program spreadsheet so that we can have a better understanding of it. So Amelia, can you read the first paragraph for us? Not Amelia, Amelie.
Spreadsheets are a particularly good choice of software when you want to work with numbers and display results in graphs. Spreadsheets are therefore widely used in finance-related tasks, such as preparing budgets, payroll, financial statements, and invoices. They also have advanced features such as what-if analysis and forecast modeling that are useful in business.
Good. Remember, you guys are making your notes. So if I'm going too fast for you to make your notes, just tell me to pause for a while so that you can write down the information. Now, spreadsheets are a particularly good choice of software when you want to work with numbers and display results in graphs. So that's the main purpose of your spreadsheet. When you want to work with numbers and when you want to display that information or data in graphs. So if you want to do some calculations, you would use a spreadsheet. If you want to present data, say for example, you want to show how many boys and girls are in a class, you want to show it in a graph so that you can have a visual representation of it. You can visually see that the boys higher than the girls. Spreadsheet is a good choice for creating graphs. So that's two important points to take note of there. So spreadsheets are therefore widely used in finance-related tasks, So those persons make use of spreadsheet because remember it's dealing with numbers, so you're doing calculations. So what do we do calculations for? When we're creating budgets, when we're doing payroll, when we're doing financial statements, when we're doing invoices. So basically anything that deals with calculation, we are going to use a spreadsheet for. In addition to that, it has some advanced features. Those advanced features allow you to do what if analysis. Does anybody have an idea what is a what if analysis?
I'm guessing a sort of hypothetical situation. Oh.
Okay, you want to try give an example?
Um.
Alright, let me not hurt you. So a what if analysis is basically you asking that question. What if? What if this? What if that? So a good example of this is like if oh, you guys still hear me or too noisy?
Hear you, sir.
Alright, but you're not hearing the rain.
You're slightly muffled, but yeah.
Alright, I'll try to speak a little louder. So the what if analysis can be compared to, say for example, you're hungry and you go by your grandmother to get food. Now a what if analysis is like if you go by your grandmother and she doesn't have food, what do you do? Or if she has food, what do you do? So the what if she has food? Then I will stay by my grandmother and eat. But if she does not have food, I will go by the neighbor or I will go by the supermarket. So that's a simple example of a what if analysis. So you give like a situation and you ask basically what if something was supposed to happen, and it analyzes those different scenarios and gives you different results. You guys following?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
much. Well, you don't need to if you don't get it, you don't need to fully understand it now because later on we're actually going to go more into detail into that aspect. So advanced features such as what if analysis, um, forecast modeling. So it can basically look at data and predict what future data could be like. So like how the weather, not the weather, meteorologists, they would look at weather data and try to predict the weather. Similarly, the spreadsheet can look at certain data and try to predict what is the next step, what is the next result, what might be the next outcome. So that's basically what a spreadsheet is used for, to handle numbers, to present data in graphs. It is used basically for calculation, budgets, payroll, financial statements, and so on. And it has advanced features such as what if analysis and forecast modeling. Everyone following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes,
So that
sir.
means we can move on from this paragraph here. Alright, so this paragraph goes over to the next page. Good. So our next reader, Amina, can you read for us the next paragraph?
A spreadsheet is a grid of cells organized in rows and columns. Each column is given a letter, and each row a number. This means that each cell has a unique reference identified by the column letter or row number. For example, B4 specifies the cell in column B and row 4. Look at the example in figure 7.2. You will see how the spreadsheet is organized into rows and columns of cells. By clicking with the mouse, you can select individual cells or a range of cells. In this case, a single cell B4 has been selected.
Very good. So, what is a spreadsheet? We have another definition for a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is a grid of cells organized in rows and columns. So that's one definition there. Another definition up here was that a spreadsheet is used for numbers, or you can say calculations, and to display results in graphs. So that's one definition there. Another definition, it is a grid of cells organized in rows and columns. So if we go back to our software, we are going to see rows. For those that cannot remember, a row is horizontal. It goes across. Horizontal means going across. If you cannot remember what is horizontal, just remember if you were standing at a beach and you're looking at the ocean, you are looking at the horizon that is across from left to right. So that is vertical, that is a row, that is horizontal. True, those three similar words. A column goes up and down, top to bottom. So think of your house. Your house is made of columns. Your house is made of posts, and they're also called columns. They go up and down, top to bottom. Hopefully that can help you guys to remember those concepts, because I know there's some persons who mix up those things. So it is a grid of cells organized in rows and columns. Each column, please take note of this, each column has a letter. So basically, each row has a name, each column has a name. Columns are named given a letter, rows are named given a number. So if we look at our spreadsheet, we can notice our columns all have letters, and our rows all have numbers. Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I know we're at 301, but I'm just going to finish off this paragraph and then we can end it for today. So this means that each cell has a unique reference identified. So a unique reference, or basically a unique name. Just like how you have a unique name, you have a first name, you have a last name. A cell has a first letter and a last number. So the name of a cell starts with the column letter and it ends with the row number. So for example, B4 specifies that the cell is in column B and row 4. It's that simple. The column comes first, the column is named with a letter, the row comes after, and it is named with a number. So if we look at the example in 7.3, we're going to see a spreadsheet organized into rows and columns, and by clicking on the mouse we can select cells or range of cells. We're going to come to this later on. But whatever cell you click on, that is the name of the cell. So let's have some practice with that before we end here. I'm going to click somewhere, and you are basically going to tell me what is the name of that cell. So what is the name of that cell there?
C4.
Very good. Let's have somebody else. What's the name of that cell there?
G6.
G6.
Very good. What about this one?
D11.
D11.
Very good.
D11.
Let me give you one even harder. How about that one?
AL35.
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 Like too easy for you, man.
Sir, you got some smart children in this class. Don't let it fool you.
How about that one?
CK78.
How about this one?
CD70.
CD70.
Very good, very good. So I'm assuming everyone understands how to name a cell, how to figure out what is the name of the cell. Everyone on that page?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good, good. So if you notice also, at the top left here, it also shows you the name. So you don't actually have to look at the column name and the row number. You're gonna see it in this box here. This box is called the name box. So please remember that also. I think later on we're gonna learn more about that. But just take reference of that. This is called the name box. That's where you also see the name. Alright, so good. So you can see in this image here, the cell location is shown here. This is the name box. The columns use letters. So you notice at the top here we have letters. Rows use numbers. That's what you're seeing there. And whatever rectangle you click on or whatever cell you click on, that will have a unique name. Good. So in summary of what we looked at today, we looked at what is a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is used for numbers, mainly numbers, calculation of those numbers, and displaying the results of those numbers in graphs. So anything dealing with calculation, budget, payroll, invoices, and so on, spreadsheet. It also has advanced features such as what-if analysis and forecast modeling. We looked at another definition. Spreadsheet is made up of rows and columns. Columns are given names with letters. Rows are given names with numbers. And a combination of that is the name of a cell. That name is what is used to identify that cell. It's a unique reference. So, unlike how two persons can have the same name, two persons can name Amelie Burnham, two persons can name Brittany Heikel, two cells cannot have the same name. I want you to remember that. Two cells cannot have the same name. All of the cells must be unique. So please remember that. So if there is no questions on anything that we looked at today, please remember we stopped off at that paragraph there. If there is no questions, then we shall end there for today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too,
You too,
sir.
sir.